Yo,
How we doing?
What's
Good
up?
morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Kevin, where are you at right now?
I'm in my basement. I wanted to kind of show everybody where I kick it after a long freight day or freight weekend, since it's a freight Friday. But after I do this, I'm heading into the insurance business and the factoring business. I was at NTG yesterday with the vets doing a meeting with everybody 3 years plus there, talking about the market. But I was up late last night. My not for the same reasons I was back in the day, but my 15-year-old daughter at volleyball practice last night fell, twisted her ankle really bad. She was in a lot of pain,
Oh,
so we took her to the ER, and she tore some ligaments. So we were up at the ER till like 3 last night. So
oh
Oh,
great.
wow.
wishing
yeah.
her a fast recovery.
Nice.
Oh, dude, she'll recover fast. She's 15, right? Not like me. It would be 3 years. But yeah, she'll probably be running around in a few weeks. So
Those kids are resilient, huh?
yeah, yeah, especially that one. She's the one that, like, if I'm like at a valet and I'm like, hey, I need $10, she'll be like, well, you better give me back 20. So I'm not worried.
That's
Smart.
savvy.
Yeah, she'll be
What
in the factoring game.
what's do you work down there a lot? What's your setting like down there? You got a bunch of stuff on the wall.
Yeah, man. This is all my faves, right? So like that's Two Chains, his basketball sign. There's a Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, a Brady. That's where I played football, and I gave a nice little donation, so they sent me a nice football. That's the UGA national title. My daughter's going to Bama though, so like I'm a little conflicted here in this house. And then these are my two favorite basketball players, Kobe Bryant, and it's Kobe Bryant year this year, 24. Some people like the 8 Kobe better, but and then Steph. And then like just some game room fun
Oh,
stuff.
you got the ping pong down there. Good.
Yeah, man. We had to get him out of the office, right? Because
Yeah, you
everybody's like,
basically
ping pong tables don't
yeah
make culture. I was like, all right,
yeah
let's get that shit out of there.
you let people shame you out of taking a ping pong table out of your office. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, but well, we also needed some space, right? Now probably put some more carrier compliance people in, right?
Two
So
birds with
where
one
shit doesn't
stone.
get stolen.
You,
Win-win.
you
Yeah.
you need those. You need
Good
those.
deal.
You
Kevin,
do?
you're based in Atlanta, right?
Yeah, I am. I
Okay.
am.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, thanks for joining us today. We have, probably a lot of questions for you, and we typically go over some news topics as well. So I think it'd be cool maybe just to hit like some news topics real quick. What's going on? I'm not sure if you heard about Newton having his own freight brokerage. Kind of curious to hear your thoughts on that. But
I
overall,
mean, look, the NFLers have been no uh, stranger to the freight game for a long, long time, right? And it makes a lot of sense, right? Because the best freight companies are great teams that have a good leader and everything else. So, like, I think it's a smart move, right? Freight
yeah.
is 20 some odd percent of GDP when you include warehousing in there. So it's like, all right, Cam, you made a lot of money. You want to go put it in a smart industry that's not going to, go anywhere. It makes sense to me, right? And there's a lot of ex NFLers, right? Like, so I'm heavy in our truck insurance business right now, and the best truck insurance brokerage, in Atlanta for 25 years was this place called Bill Fralick Truck Insurance, and Bill Fralick was a giant left tackle for the Falcons, right? And so he passed, and then a group took that business over and continued to grow it. But like, you know, NFLers and athletes coming into the freight game is happens every day, and so we welcome them. Come on, Cam. Hope to meet him one day. I met him actually in Vegas once at at like a meet and greet thing that the Cosmo did for the Super Bowl. So I have a picture with him. I was a lot younger, so I'd love to get one when I'm a little older. It'd be cool.
What position did you play in football?
So it depended on what I did that summer, right? Like if I was really fat, I'd come back and play left guard or center, right? But if I was like one summer, I worked at Myrtle Beach and like was a little more in shape and whatever else. And that year, I played a lot of special teams and basically was a blocking back, stood next to to the quarterback, or on short yardage would go in but it depended, right? It depended if I came in at 245 or 285, right? But that was in college. But in high school, I played a lot of defense, and all around on the line, but linebacker a lot in high school, but I wrestled too, like wrestling, and as I'm wearing my Ultimate Warrior. But wrestling was one of my favorite sports in high school. And just Georgia, though, it's not big, right?
Yeah.
Like compared to like going up to an Iowa or an Illinois or
Yeah.
in Minnesota or whatever else, like where it's cold and they wrestle inside all day with their brothers, I guess. Like they, I'd go and wrestle somebody from another state and be like, all right, I'm not going to be able to do that in college.
That's cool. Clearly, athletics have been part of your life, right?
Yeah. I mean, competing, right? Like my parents kind of instilled that in an early age in me, and I just gravitated even like to the early swim team ages, right? Like just always extremely competitive and wanting to win.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Kevin, you had a sports background. You're playing a lot of sports, a lot of football, different positions based on your weight as you'd come back from summer. Tell us just a little bit. Like one of the things that when we reached out initially was I just wanted to hear how some of your origin stories of getting into this entire business were, because as I learned about you early on, they were some pretty awesome stories, and it seemed like you've gone through a lot through the various different businesses that you've built. We're all building businesses here as well, and many probably who are listening are too. We're just wanting to know how did you start in this business, like, and what was like really like the defining moment for you to?
And I was an entry level salesperson at C.H. Robinson making 25 G's. Right? Like my first job out of college, I made 25 G's, and I got from Robinson. I mean, this was a long time ago, 25 years ago. And then I got like a Christmas bonus and an annual bonus based on how the office did. And it was awesome. Right. And I had enough money to like pay my rent, eat out pretty decent, and, and I was really good at it. And so I was in the Northeast zone. I was in Columbia, South Carolina. And then I took a like I really started, paying attention to where the loads came from, right? Like the customers and who they were, and, how could I add more and make a difference and win in my office. So I latched on to our best salesperson, Kevin Harthen. He's retired now. He's ran a few branches at Robinson. And like he taught me, some soft skills in the freight brokerage game, basically how to make a customer interact with you quickly. Went over my script. I mean, I would practice it on the way to work. I would practice it in the shower. I mean, this was my career now, right? And I had to make money, so I wanted to get better and better and better at it. I'm from Atlanta. They didn't have any Atlanta jobs when I was coming out of school, but they told me if I went to Columbia and hit some numbers, one of the GMs would want me. And then luckily, there was a great GM in Atlanta, Hunter Witten, and I went and met with him. He said, "Yeah, come on," and worked there for years. And then my wife and I, we're not going to move to Eden Prairie, Minnesota, right? We're from Atlanta. I went up there.
Yeah.
I got off the plane. It was -6, and I love that business. Like CH is like, I'm so proud to be an ex-CHer, and I think they will turn it around, continue to grow load count there again and do all the right things. But I learned a ton at CH, and it was like, all right, as I'm moving up the ranks and trying to figure out my career, and was getting my MBA at night, and my wife and I, talked on it, and it was like, yeah, we're gonna stay in Atlanta. Our parents are here. This is where we're from. So that was when I knew that I was going to start my own thing, right?
Were you hooked on freight like from the beginning? Like, did you ever have one of those?
The day I walked in during my interview, so I got the job at the Career Center, right? So for the young men and women that are in college that are watching this, like, go to your college Career Center. People love to hire you, especially in the logistics field. And so I the counselor in the career center was like, hey, there's this company, they love ex-athletes, they got an office in Columbia and they got one in Charleston and one here and one in Atlanta and da 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 da. And I went and I shadowed on the Columbia and I was like, this is incredible, right? You know, like the emotion, like why are freight brokers so emotional, right? Like in the three-way deal between broker, shipper, carrier, the most emotional is like the broker. You could feel it on the floor. And
It's
so
similar to
that was
traders. I've noticed it's similar to traders, like ones that trade commodities. It's like almost identical, the same type of person as well. They're very, very, very emotional, high stress, high intensity people.
Yeah, right. And so I was attracted to that and attracted to the challenge of like, hey, there's this giant puzzle and we got to find 5 trucks to the Northeast. And, you know, then you got to convince some of them like, hey, this load might not really be going to Indianapolis. It might be going to Bangor, you know, but like, we're going to talk you into it. And then there's the whole negotiation aspect of like, you know, I don't want to go to the Northeast. Well, maybe I can make you go to the Northeast. And so, you know, it was very fun, specifically in the Northeast, and then dealing with those carriers, right? Because I was trying to get the backhauls.
Yeah.
So dealing with those like Northeast dispatchers and me being, you know, a Southern guy and whatever else, it was fun. It was fun.
I'm going to really quickly pull up this article we put together. This was from the podcast you did with Andrew, Kevin Beck, in
How
the fall.
good is he doing with that, by the way, man? Like,
he's
I
crushing
remember
it, yeah.
when he told me, he was like, hey, I'm going to start a podcast. I thought it was a pretty awesome idea just because, you know, he'd been in the game from a lot of different angles and a lot of people love talking to Andrew. So he gets a lot of candid, cool conversations.
Yeah,
Totally.
He is doing a good
He
job.
come to Howard Stern of freight.
I think so. Maybe the Joe Rogan of freight. I'm going to pull this up though real quick. This is a summary from the podcast you did with Andrew that we wrote up, but highly recommend listening to the podcast if you want like more in depth to learn more about Kevin. Also, you could check out our article, but I guess we could kind of skim through it a little bit just since we have time because like I know we only have 45 minutes left, but so C.H. Robinson was the beginning. You were there when American Backhaulers got acquired by C.H. Robinson.
What an awesome acquisition CH did, man. And I was a trainer on Express. So not only was our TMS Cosmos at the time at Robinson was pretty good, but man, when that Express came in, it was like, all right, that's what good looks like in a TMS. So
what made it good?
And then just their capacity. Like, so I used to cover a lot of my loads. And then when we bought backhaulers, they'd come in and cover all my loads and I'd be pissed. And then after about 6 days, I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like I can go sell. Right. And so this push and pull between carrier sales. And
Yeah. Was that when you were introduced to the split model?
Yeah, I was cradled. I mean, a little bit. Like we had resources at Robinson at that point that were, you know, operational or, you know, something, but it was never a true buy sell side until that. Like that was like the true split buy sell side. And then NTG, we were not a true split side until about 3-4 years ago, until we got, you know, some of that Coyote blood and some of the Chicago carriers into us, because I knew it from being in a branch and then having it come in and really help Robinson, but I didn't, and we grew it. I mean, like, you know, at the time in 2018, when we did the deal with TI and Griffin, you know, carrier sales, we had carrier sales. It was covering maybe 40% of our loads. Now it's 99, right?
Yeah.
Now it's almost 100%. So we've really built the buy sell side really, really well over the last few years. But dude, the way that Robinson integrated it very fast and everything else they did with American Backhaulers, that was incredible.
What did you like about the software?
Visibility to capacity, right? Just everything. I mean, it was good. I mean, like they even had like the credit was so tight, right? Like from a standpoint, they had this guy, Paul White. I don't know if he's still in the game or not, but like if you had to call Paul White to get more credit, it was like a sweating call. And the guy had like a credit card machine in his office. That's why Payhawk exists now. But like literally he would be like, tell him to send me some money. I got the credit card machine. But like, and then you would see like You know, the way that they put the notes in, you know, the way that I could search for trucks, you know, and it was just awesome. You know, it wasn't a shipper only software, right? And managing the shipper side. It was like, okay, there's this other side of the puzzle. Like, let's really dig in and make sure that we get those pieces in the right places too, and care about them.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, after CH, you went to Suntech for a little bit, but you had a non-compete with CH Robinson.
No, I
Can
had
you talk a little bit?
I actually had a non-compete both after I left each, but yeah, I mean,
Okay,
I had more of a non-solicit with CH, right?
non-solicit. Okay,
And
What are
not
your
trying to take the employees and the customers and whatever else. I had a
got it.
straight up non-compete with Suntech, like I'm out. Like,
Oh, okay. So,
because I
why
had
did you
equity in
leave?
that business. That business started as a publicly traded brokerage, Suntech.
Okay,
And they got a few of us ex-CHers. And so I thought we were going W-2 model, and they were going, and they stuck as an agent. And so I had equity and stock in that business that I needed that capital to start NTG. And so I had to, that's where the non-compete aspect of my career was in. Everyone thinks it was
got it.
Robinson, but Robinson was
Okay,
illicit.
non-solicit.
And I
Okay,
might
and then
say
you.
that wrong sometimes too, because it's confusing because I've had a lot of great times in between those times, and also like
Sure.
for dark times as well. So
Yeah, I could imagine. So, what made you transition over to Waffle House?
man, I had a non-compete and I needed to make money, and they had benefits, and I played ball with a lot of guys that worked there in the Atlanta area. They so Waffle House is yellow and black because it's Georgia Tech. Right, that is a organization that is. I learned. I mean, my MBA, I learned a lot. CH Robinson, I learned a lot. I've learned a tremendous amount in my career, but I'd say I learned the most in my Waffle House experience. You always have to be hiring because turnover is crazy there.
Mm-hmm.
They pay their vendors super fast. It used to be a cash only business. Check this out. On Sundays, I used to have to pay the staff in cash because we didn't take credit cards back in the day. I believe I'm an aspect of why they take credit cards now, because I would sit there and watch these drunk people come in, or these families come in, and they'd have like $60 cash or $40 cash, and they'd be doing algebra
Yeah.
how much they could eat and spend. And I was like,
Yeah.
open up the floodgates for these people. They're drunk. They want to spend more.
Yeah.
But they were so tight on wanting to be a cash business because of how they wanted to pay their vendors. So like
Yeah.
the milkman would come there, or the bread man comes to the store, or whoever it is, like we would pay them cash immediately. So they would always give us the stuff best and fast. But on employees, like you'd have to pay cash on Sunday. And like after a big church Sunday breakfast group and the concert Saturday night and Saturday morning breakfast crowd or whatever else, and you have all this cash. I'd have like $20,000 in cash in a Waffle House with a bunch of Waffle House employees that I was paying. That like at any point, and so there's a lot of stories of Waffle House managers getting robbed on Sundays, right? And like that's why that
Wow.
back door has to be locked. Like if someone goes out to have a cigarette out that back door on pavement day, I'm firing you immediately, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how I'm getting robbed in that back door and running out the back. So
Wow.
man, I had so much fun at Waffle House. I had my best store off exit 13 on 400, 871. They would mess with me so bad, guys. Like they would call me at 2 a.m. and be like, "We're out of bread." Like if you're out of bread at Waffle House, you're you're in real trouble. So I would go to the Publix, and then the Kroger or whatever else come running in with 40 bags of freaking. They weren't out of my bread, but they got. I did catch someone stealing at 2 a.m. Like I staked out from across the street because my food costs were going up, and I knew that something was happening. So there was a waitress and a cook that were in on it, and they had regulars that would use an order. You go to Waffle House, you order the same thing.
Yeah.
but I'll get off the Waffle House kick. But it's so I fired both of them at 2 a.m. Right, and like nobody's coming to work at 2 a.m. So from 2 a.m. until 7 a.m. I was cook and waitress. So I learned very much that if you're gonna fire somebody, do it at the end of the shift.
At least the next will come in. Nice. Cool. Anything else?
What happened after Waffle House?
The other day my non-compete was up. I was back into the game. I was an agent for someone who was an ex-Suntech agent as well. And, we talked and it was like, hey, I'm going to come and, get my bases up and then start my own thing. And we worked it out and it was great. And so I worked with Donnelly National out of Haddon Heights, New Jersey as an agent, and then started my own thing in MC number in 07. So from 05 to 07 was an with DNT.
Kevin, what was the hardest thing about opening up your own MC that you remember? What was the most painful thing?
Money.
Yeah.
Truckers not wanting to take my loads. Factoring companies not wanting to work with me. Shippers who I'd worked with for years. 07 was a rough time. Like, the last few years, 07, 08, 09. Same thing. You had banks not wanting to lend money. You had credit issues. You had all kinds of things going on. You had a lot of truckers who came into the market and then were leaving, and so there was a lot of shippers who didn't want to work with you. So we really didn't start growing for about 4, 5, 6 years. Like it took us from 07 to 2013 to really be able to do our first class. And our first class was like 10 or 15 people. And I remember we could not, we were very nervous on whether or not we were going to be able to, hire, because it was a lot. It was like adding almost 30-40% of our staff overnight. Yeah. And then, we were able to train and we were able to teach people and our, ways of brokering freight. Men and women went in and did well. And so we said, hey, let's do another class. And so our next class was 100 people. And
were you doing the training?
What's that?
Were you involved heavily in training, obviously?
I've always, really let the men and women that work with me kind of, come up with an idea and run with it. No, we had this old football coach that I used to play ball against in high school, and one of my partners, Harold Barron, it was his cousin, and so we were like, hey, let's bring him in, and he'll run it like a football program. So we would bring Atlanta, and we would rent out a hotel and we would do it there, and we ran periods, and ran it like a football camp. And it would be from all the offices. It was too expensive, right? Like looking back on it, the way that we were doing that, because half the people would leave, right? So I would pay for the flights and we would pay for the hotels and the food and, the time. But back here on the who did the training, man, this was expensive as well. We would bring our best men and women from the other offices, whether it was GM, whether it was broker, whoever else, they would come in and work. And then we would have the people on the phone fast. Like maybe that was a mistake too. Like, hey, you might not need to be on the phone 3 days later, right? 4 days later, but they needed to pay for themselves pretty fast just because of the fact that we were growing business. And so,
what sort of people were you trying to hire?
Yeah.
Like-minded, aggressive people that wanted to win, that were not afraid to have their numbers posted day in and day out. Like yesterday, I was talking to the vets at NTG, know your stats. Like back in the day, I used to carry around baseball cards because the internet didn't exist. But if I went to go watch the Braves, I wanted to know what Dale Murphy's batting average was last year, right? And I sure as hell wasn't going to be able to read that little green line that had it because we didn't have jumbotrons, right? And I wasn't going to admit I needed contacts or glasses until I was in middle school and couldn't read the board. And so we knew our stats, right? And so people that are not afraid, because there's no hiding in any of my businesses, there's no hiding, right? Like you have to come in and produce. So every day our numbers are posted, right? And that some people are good with
that.
What
does that mean exactly in practice? Like what posted where?
Bro, if I could, but the state of Georgia told me I wasn't allowed to do it anymore. I would have a door that says you were a revenue producing employee today, you were profitable, or you were negative, right? And so that means that like your load count, that means like your margin, that means like, hey, how much you did, like that's going out to the whole company. And everybody's going to see it, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to either be a superstar here or you're going to get let go, right? Or you're going to quit, right? And you know, high achievers like high achievers, period, right?
Yeah.
And so that's so we're gonna put your numbers out there, and we're gonna celebrate them. And then if you're not hitting them, we're gonna ask why, and we're gonna meet with you, and we're gonna ask. And so, you know, it allows everybody to know what the score is. And so, so you got to come in and see it, right? And during COVID, it was hard because, you know, people didn't get to come in and see that, and so then they got in it, and then they might not like it, right? And so that's why the back to office is so important to me, and um, you know,
If, as a business owner, what were some of the things that you didn't know when you're starting the company that you wish you did?
how much capital it was going to take, right? Like, you know, whether it's trucking, side, freight brokerage, which is basically just an asset moving line back and forth between truckers, shippers, employees, whatever else. Like the bank aspect, the back office side of this business is extremely, extremely heavy, right? So as a person who worked at Robinson and even as a person who was an agent, like the what happens post delivery is so time consuming. It is like honestly more time consuming than the actual load aspect of booking, sending the confirmation, getting the carrier set up, you know, the dispatch. Like if you take all that time and then you compare it to the time post load, and then also like how important how fast you pay is, how like I didn't know all that stuff, right? And that's why that there was that time between '07 and 13 that like we really had to grow because we had to build our credit, we had to build our war chest of cash. I mean, it was just that's the aspect that I didn't really ever appreciate as an employee, a jackass employee. A lot of times to some of these business owners, like you know, like that's the part I didn't appreciate. The other aspect was like you know I talk about the emotion side, like it's a lot. Like it's a like when you have a bad day, you know, or a bad month or a bad quarter, or like you know, the last few years, bad years, like that shit wears on your soul, you know. And so, you know, that's where you have to be really, 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 I'm gonna say it 100 times, really, 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 really mindful of what you do outside of work because if you go home and then just go straight to the bar, or the golf course, and all you're gonna do is just start pounding and like, you know, mentally you're just done, right? And so the balance aspect, like I didn't, you know, but I traveled like a warrior, man. That's why I mean, that's like it was my thing to be in every office, you know, at least once a quarter. And once we had 13 offices, like I was living like a rock star, right? That aspect, like you need a team, right? That's the other thing I didn't know as a business owner, right? Like I can't do any of this stuff without my men and women that work with me. And so I have the best, like the best management teams and everything else. And so that took me a while to let go of like even the financials, right? Like I was embarrassed of them for years, right? And then I had to find someone that I trusted and knew and whatever else was like, dude, this is incredible what you've built. What are you talking about? So,
How
you
long
know,
would it take you to like build trust with somebody that maybe you're hiring and you don't have any idea who they are? You know, maybe you got referred to them, but is that a multi-month, half year, full year type, you know, relationship you're building before they come on board?
I mean, it depends on what role, right? Like if they're going to have access to the bank stuff, like you probably want to do some pretty thorough investigation or background or whatever else, like on what they're going to do and what they're touching and everything else. But in the back office world, and when you sit next to somebody and you spend, you know, 50, 60 hours with them, you hear everything that's going on in their life. Like, you know, even if their wife is going to buy tires and they're, you know, like coaching them through it on how to negotiate and whatever else, or they go to the grocery store and they spend too much, right? Like literally, these are the conversations that a tight knit freight brokerage hears with one another. And so, you know, you grow trust really fast in that environment. In the remote environment, like I haven't figured out a way to, especially, you can go meet with them, you can fly, you can sit, you can do a few lunches or whatever else, and maybe some dinners, get to meet them, but that takes a tremendous amount more time versus the actual like natural of just, man, I would say it takes a good entrepreneur probably 4 or 5 years to get to that point where they're like so exhausted and tired that they just need a partner that's going to come in and help them on that back office side and that fine and dealing with the banks. That was, that was the part that was like, how are you going to go deal with raising capital and then go do sales at the same time? You can't. That's why you got to have numbers.
What just on this topic of like posting numbers for the team, how do you do that same, how do you apply that same sort of philosophy to roles that aren't like sales related? Maybe like a back office type role, like just the rest of the company.
Buckets, like what are your percentages of your aging buckets?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Like 0 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90. How fast are you turning your invoices?
Yep.
I mean, there's all like how many invoices were processed by this person? How many POBs were collected? Yeah, all of it. It's great. How fast were carriers turned on?
Kevin, I know there's some great stories from you getting payments from shippers that weren't paying the bill, and you talked about that. You addressed that in the podcast with Andrew. I'll pull it up right here.
The Black Fact is about the nicest I've ever was, right? Like,
Can you tell us more?
Chris Evans, who you guys have probably all seen or met at conferences. I mean, he's 6'5", giant.
Wait, did you say Chris Ebel?
Yeah, he's the man.
Yeah, Chris is the man.
All right, and so Chris and I, man, there's many plastics brokers we went to, warehousers down in Savannah, and be like, dude, I'm going in the front, you're going in the back, like grab him. We have to make payroll, right? So, yeah, collecting money from shippers is very hard. The last thing people want to pay is freight bills and legal bills, right? Like it's just added, so collecting money was and is it sucks though, man. Like we did this load for you 90 days ago. We had to pay carriers 3 times on our money since we've had to did this load. We made like 11%, bro. Our cost of capital right now is like 10. So, I'm losing money. And then every time someone has to call and collect, it's so stupid. But, created a lot of jobs.
So you've obviously gone in, started a bunch of other stuff, right? You've kind of picked apart different parts of the transaction, if you will, and gone into factoring, payments, and stuff like that. How early?
The beast. MIG's the next beast.
So like at what point were you like, oh, hey, we need to go do OTR? Like we need to get into factoring. Like what
when Fritz Owens said he'd come work with me and wrote a check and bought into NTG and OTR. So Fritz,
and is he your second cousin?
Our grandfathers are brothers, and we really didn't. I mean, look, I always knew who Fritz was. He went to Georgetown, CFA, worked on Wall Street. Like, he's a stud. And so we got to know each other through my godfather, my uncle, Tom Owens. And so Tom would take us hunting down in South Georgia. And we, Fritz from New York, it was so funny. Like, we went on this quail plantation. And I don't know. I don't know if they were wild birds. I'm guessing they were probably planted because there were so many of them. But him and his brother from New York were like, "This is the quail capital of the world." I was like, Fritz, we might go fishing at the aquarium after this. Like it was like an amusement park and they're both, one of his brother lives in California, and like everything they're serving us is fried and like fried chicken, fried okra, and this and whatever else. And his brother's like, "You got any sushi or like, anyone got a salad around here?" It was just, and then Fritz kind of fell in love with the South, right? So, we would hang out more and more and more. And then finally I was up in New York, and I was going up to Connecticut to visit a aluminum importer. And, you know, there's a lot of recycling companies that have headquarters in New York, and freight forwarders and all this stuff. And so I'd go up there a decent amount, and we actually met in Grand Central Station in New York at Michael Jordan's restaurant. And we had a conversation, and he had a child and wanted to move to the South, but, you know, and then he came and visited. We only had 13 people at NTG at the time. So he was our first CFO, right? And he was, when you talk about trusting someone to come in and, you know, take over the banking, take over the relationship with the factors. So I had ruined a lot of relationships with factors because hey, you're making a percentage on this. Like, you get paid later. And they're like, haha, I'm going to turn you off. And then I'd be like, I have no capacity. So it's like, I really want to get involved in that business. But I knew, like, Fritz had not only the financial background, he also, you know, was going to be great at dealing with the banks. He was mending all the relationships with the factoring companies. So it was just like, go into factoring. And you know, we had him who could be that leader. So, you know, because it's impossible to grow something where, you know, you're kind of focused, you know, half in on these things. Like, you know, I start these businesses, and then it's very important to find leadership and management teams that are gonna take it to the next level. So Fritzy, so OTR is like, you know, OTR stands for over the road, but, you know, it's Owens too, man. You know, Owens and onions. That's what we would. So my mother's maiden name is Owens, and she's one of 8. And so, like, at Thanksgiving, there would be, I'm a Nolan, and there's a Hurley and whatever else. So there'd be a football game that would be the Owens and onions, and the Owens, you know, the in-laws would always try to take it to him, but Fritz is 6'5" as well, so they would just throw the ball high to him, and he would, you know, just.
Damn.
But they thought he was really cool, and I know you
Yeah.
guys have been looking at. They got to roll out like at Freight Waves next week. They're going to make some people laugh for sure.
Love it. That's really interesting though, Kevin, because you mentioned how, like, finding the right people to kind of run the business. Because, like, it seems like there's a lot of companies that you either started or helped found. So, like, can you kind of list those companies for us, just so that we, like, our audience knows exactly, like, which companies you're behind?
Yeah, I mean, look, I got 2 of them tatted on me. So this is NTG. That's the freight we were talking about before. That's
Okay.
OTR. There's the bridge in there. I made it the heart of the Rhino. So NTG, Nolan Transportation Group, OTR Solutions, which is a factoring, finance, fuel business, websites. Again, amazing business, incredible leadership team there. Marquee Insurance Group, MIG, which is selling insurance to trucking companies and factoring companies, as well as brokers. We just signed 5 brokers in the last week, which we're super excited about because we didn't really have that marketplace before, and we brought in some new people that have really helped us with that. So, and then Payhawk, which is a payments business where, you know, factoring is an incredible thing. Freight brokerage logistics, but if you look at it with credit card payments, it's very similar, right? Like, it's the similar percentage that you get your money, whatever else. So it kind of felt like, from a digital moving to, you know, it's been incredible to learn how the whole payments world and payments industry works. So I'm involved in that. And then after starting NTG and OTR and realizing how capital intensive they were and needing partners, I've sold majority interest in NTG and majority interest in OTR. We, you know, collectively as a partnership and management team decided we needed more capital. So we brought in Transportation Insight and Griffin Partners in 2018 to NTG, which has been incredible because it's made us a more grown-up business, which that business really needed to evolve. And then OTR in 2021 brought on Summit Partners, and they were behind FleetCor. So if you look at FleetCor, is a huge fuel business. So we've really, really focused at OTR on the fuel side. So, but after those 2 events, I, you know, had life-changing capital come into my family. I started Soap Creek, and Soap Creek is awesome. So Soap Creek is my office. and Joe, who runs that, he was at Ridgemont, and Ridgemont has done a ton of investments in the logistics space. He also looks at the business differently, right? Like he looks at the fundamentals, the financials, the management team, their valuation, how to do it, and so. Soap Creek has done investments in incredible businesses all across. We're very excited about our most recent, which is a CTTP, which is a truck parts aftermarket business where we, suspensions, mud flaps, blinkers, all the things that truckers want to buy. We want to be able to help them buy those in our network through NTG, OTR, and MIG. We're to win, which I think is one of the coolest training softwares I've ever seen. They got some incredible news coming out over the next few months, and Sasha and that team there. We're in highway, and these we're just capital, right? Like we're capital, and we're a little bit of advisement as well as there to help these entrepreneurs that are going to need to raise more money, that are going to have conversations with private equity or strategic buyers and go through a lot of the things that I've been through so I can help them. It's very small percentages of those businesses. We know we were in lean, and then they got invested by private equity, and so we got bought out of that, which was an amazing return for us. We've been really fortunate and lucky to partner with great ISO we're in, which I think is one of the best up and coming businesses that's out there. We're just in a lot of really, really cool stuff.
What have you identified as a big difference between like venture capital versus, I think, private equity? It seems like you had some involvement in
one EBITDA and one doesn't, right?
Okay.
Right, like one is in growth stage and you think can get to EBITDA, just like NTG. OTR was profitable earlier than NTG just because it has to be with the way that the banks and the regulations are. But does that management team understand that at one point this business is going to have to flip to a profitable entity, right? Or are they just kind of in the wave, having fun, thinking that they're going to raise? So it's very important, on a venture deal to know, when's this thing going to flip, right? And is it, and if it's not, and it hasn't, and they're not meeting what they presented from why, and holding everybody. But on a venture deal, I'm going to put in smaller dollars. On a controlling deal or an EBITDA deal that's got good profitability over the last few years, right? We're going to put more in, right? So it's just kind of, that's the way we look at it. We're going to put smaller percentage in venture, but those are going to have bigger hits. So I look at those as a yo bet playing craps or a hard eight.
It's the power law. It's one out of all your 100 bets, needs to hit to basically make up everything else. Plus,
and 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, that's kind of the way the venture mind is. But on the full buyout or the private equity, model, it's got to be 6 out of 8, right? It's got to be, and those 2 that weren't are break even type, get your money back situations.
Kevin, I'm curious now, what does your day-to-day look like? Can you walk us through this week? I'm guessing, and who are the main people that you surround yourself with? Because I'm being involved with so many businesses, you have to have
that's a great question. There's probably at each business 5 or 6 that maybe OTR it's greater, it's 12. NTG it's probably smaller, right? Because I don't want to mess up the messaging, right? Drew Herpick runs the brokerage, right? And so if I go in and say something different, so it's very important that we make sure that we're on the same page and that we're so. But day to day from me is every Monday morning 9 a.m. MIG, we have the hot lead sales call, right? We go over everybody that's in the fleet team, and fleets we describe as 4 power units plus. We're going over what's hot, what I need to get involved in, what I don't need to get involved in, and every week after that, there's at least 15 action truckers that I'm going to talk to. So I was in Chicago, man, lately a lot. Where are you guys from?
I'm in Goose Island, so.
He's in Chicago.
He's in Chicago.
Chicago, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but like,
Yeah.
were any of you guys like originally from Central Asia or Eastern European?
I live in Poland. I'm originally from Chicago, but I live in Poland. My parents are from Poland. Like, I'm Polish American. I was born and raised in Chicago, but I'm currently in Poland right now.
Right. How
Yeah.
many truckers do you guys think are in within 30 miles of Oak Brook, Illinois? How many truckers?
God, I don't
How many-
even.
how many
It's probably
Thousands.
5,000.
Thousands.
5,000.
Thousands is right, but how
Yeah.
many?
I don't even
5,000.
like.
10,000?
Yeah.
8,500.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And if y'all have a master plan to take us down Red Dawn or whatever it is, like, all right, because now it seems like that group is all moving to Ohio, right? So like literally, if the old republic like literally has a plan to like infiltrate us through the central of the country and just cut us off, it's done. But I mean,
I'll let him know.
it's a risk joke. Like I mean, we play Risk a lot at my house, but no, don't let them know, please. Yeah. So they have all the heavy machinery and they can cut us off like that. No, but the Eastern European and Central Asian, man, like I've gotten way more involved in it because 15 years ago, the Chicagoland trucker was looked at as like Sketchyville, right? Sketchyville, USA, right? Like, you know, 630, or if it's, you know, whatever the area,
847.
whatever it is, right? Like Naperville or Elk Grove Village or whatever it is, like they're shady. Not anymore, guys. Insurance side, all the insurance big markets are coming to MIG and saying, go get those truckers. They've proven, those men and women, that they are great businessmen and women. They can operate efficiently. Their costs are cheaper than than some of the legacy historic truckers out there. So like the Chicago market, the Chicago trucker, like their identity has flipped over the last 15 years, and it's awesome, right? And it's like incredible. And then the way they use back office, offshoring, nearshoring, is better than anybody, right?
Mhm.
They have
And
that nailed
like
down.
friends and family and whatever else. So it's awesome. So I've been spending a ton of time in Chicago. I was actually in Wheeling, Illinois, and they have like a Russian bathhouse there. Anyone been
Oh,
there?
we've been there. Buffalo
yeah.
Grove. It's Fusion
Skyspot.
Energy. What is it?
Skyspot?
I don't even know what it's called, but it's like its
Yeah,
own.
I go there. I went there in March. Yeah, no, that's an amazing place. Yeah, we go there. I go there all the time. It's all strong soul Sergey's.
Have like these smoked fish, and you're eating them like
Yeah.
All right, so
Kevin,
we're doing that,
wait,
man.
we
Like
have
with
to go there
100
together.
power unit truckers, Ali, this guy, man. Shout out Ali, Sunway Carriers, man. If you need a great flatbed carrier, this is your guy. But so he, basically gave me like a Chicago, like Eastern European, Central Asia day. Like we went to all these restaurants, and then we were in this Russian bathhouse for solid. FBI, like it can't get you in there. Like I'm going in and out of these steam rooms into the cold, whatever else. We were hitting each other with
the
leaves.
oak
Leaves.
leaves.
Yeah.
That shit is like
Okay.
we need to open up more of those. Truck Parking Club CMO news.
Yeah, we're gonna.
And you'll have every trucker in America there. I was selling factoring insurance in the wet room, bro. Like it was.
Yo, Kevin, wait, this is insane that you were there
Yeah.
because we go there quite often whenever I'm in Chicago. And it's like when I was there in March, I was talking to like a lot of the people there. They're all truck drivers essentially. And
Bro,
we had one.
wear the hat.
Yeah. I got a hat.
I got my hat up
right here.
Kevin, you don't have no idea how
This is the
Yeah.
Chicago
strong.
sweat lodge.
You don't know how strong of a nerve you
Sweat
struck
lodge.
talking of bringing saunas into this, because we went to the sauna in Chicago in September, and
Yeah.
Paul goes every time he's there, and yeah, we're
Well, the one in
Does it
Wheeling
look
is
like
special.
fall if we start going more? Do we get
yes.
Wait, Kevin, will you be in Chicago in August?
I mean, I can be. I'm sure I will.
Yeah, we gotta do like a
film-
sauna sesh.
We could film some great content if you're there in August.
You can't
and I can show
film.
you.
You can't
I know
film
all
in
the
the
trucking
sun, though.
companies.
By the way, this
I-
is a unisex Russian bathhouse, right? So
Right.
Yeah.
like couples in there. There's fam. I mean,
Yeah.
like, and then
Yeah.
people hang out, right? And then they, after about 30 minutes and drinks, like, let's go sweat again, right? It's like,
Yeah.
and
It's awesome.
dude. The coolest thing is that that shower pull down. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
The
Bucket. Yeah.
yeah, but it reminds me of like when I was, taking my young girls to the water park and like that thing would fall on them as it like would
On
build.
the bucket. Yeah.
Amazing.
Well,
Well, maybe you should do some marketing in the Wheeling bathhouse.
So funny enough, I'm going to share a meme. This photo is taken from the Google page of the bathhouse you're at. I'm going to show it right now. So this guy right here, this photo is from the bathhouse that you were at in Wheeling. So, it's the Sky Spana in Buffalo Grove, and I'm pretty sure this is the one.
It's more or less
Hey,
Wheeling.
brother, that's it.
Yeah, Sky Spana. Yeah. So
outside pool. It's got and it,
Yep.
Exactly.
So Kevin, if you come in August, I'm gonna be there in August for 2 weeks with our videographer. If you come there, I can take you to all these trucking companies as I know them all. And we could go to the sauna.
Beautiful.
That's spa.
That's a good lead. That's a good lead gen. So you're
We'll
there selling insurance, right?
And factoring, and also getting a better relationship with our carrier sales reps at NTG, right? So I'm basically going in and saying, look, you're an amazing business. We want to be a part of it, and hopefully we can get to quote your insurance. But yeah, Reed, I'm not selling insurance. I mean, I'm bringing an agent with me and whatever else, because I don't want to fool them and think that like, hey, when they need to do an endorsement and add some equipment, they're calling me. But yeah, like I love selling, and helping and working with these truckers and a lot of them when they sign up for insurance, and like MIG, by the way, like anybody that's in brokerage that wants to make a good transition or is at a brokerage now that wants to come work, like I'm hiring at MIG like crazy. We have a thing called Express Lane where we're getting great leads in from the DAT. We're getting great leads in from OTR. We're getting great leads in from NTG. And so we're getting a ton of inbound leads, but we're working the fleet side because we finally got the markets we needed, right? We finally have Great West, right? We finally have Carolina Casualty. We have these big markets that want us to sell to fleets, and they want us to go after Chicagoland carriers pretty heavy. So, yeah, I'm up there selling to truckers, brother.
Nice.
I love it. You got to come out in August, Kevin. Yeah, maybe we can make it work.
Flyers and the windshields on those guys in your parking places. Congrats on that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I know that cohort of carriers also they're just savvy business owners in many situations, right? And they get into they're moguls, and a lot of them are moguls in their own right. Like they've got a trucking company, they've got other stuff that they do. I mean, there's so many of those guys who've just come here, maybe 15, 20 years ago, started as a driver and are now crushing it,
Right. And then look, there's also a ton of homegrown badasses as well, like Savannah Logistics that runs that business down in Savannah. Like he's building a machine, right? And I was down visiting him, right? And he's doing brokerage, warehousing, heavy haul, drayage. Juan Diaz. Listen, if there's anybody y'all got to get on your show, it's Juan Diaz. Do you know him?
Where are you from? I know a Juan Diaz, but I feel like there's like a lot of Juan Diaz's.
Brothers Trucking, man. We went fishing recently down in Key West, and him and his brother Jose. So Juan Diaz is a former WBC world champion. If you Google Juan Diaz boxer and hit images, there's a picture of Don King holding his arm up in Mandalay Bay. Like, this guy's a savage. And so he has in his drayage facility where he's 100 trucks in Houston, he's got boxing rings. And so like these drivers, dispatchers, they'll go work it out in the ring. Like if JD Express and crash, don't talk back because he'll hit you with a liver shot. I mean, like But no, Juan Diaz. So I was on the phone with him, and I was like, dude, you're different than most truckers I've dealt with, talked with. And after a while, he finally he didn't open it up. Like if I was a former WBC world champion, I would wear the belt to Publix. This guy didn't even bring it up, but he's an incredible man, and he
Wow.
trades business in about 8-9 years. But the American trucker and the American business owner, I don't think there's a better business owner out there because they have to be incredibly shrewd. They have to manage drivers. They've got to manage assets. They've got to manage cash flow. It's incredible.
Have you
So
noticed
tough.
this? Has anybody else noticed this? That usually those guys, their wives, are usually helping out a lot too in the back office, or is that just a me observation? I don't know, because it seems like they get that help, from
It's a family business.
your family
Man,
business. Yeah,
brought up the trust aspect of the dollars and whatever else, because if you get hit for a couple $100,000 in by an employee, you're screwed in this business. You're done. Everything matters. So it's a lot of the family, best friends aspect. Yes, I mean,
So-
That's we've got like 3 minutes here.
Yeah, we got a couple questions too from people.
Well,
Should we run them?
just can we just talk about where you're looking towards in the future? We've talked a lot about the past, what you're doing now. Where do you think things are going? Where do you think brokerage is going? What do you think about all this trendy shit?
guys. All right, and we got slapped in the face with fraud over the last few years, right?
Yeah.
But you open up these new holes for people to take loads from you, right? Whether through your app or with us at DG, or a connectivity through DAT or load board into your system or truck stop or whoever it is. We do a lot of trustworthy transactions over the phone, over the internet, whatever else. So does eBay, so does Zelle, so does Venmo, so whatever else. So we have to get better at the digitation. We have to, or digitize, whatever it is. You have it with your Gong or whatever, but we have to get better at digitizing the business. And we have to know that when you open up new holes to your house, rats are going to get in.
yeah.
But how are we going to continue to get better? Is it, there's got to be a know your carrier, the banks and whatever else have know your customers. But is it two-way authentication? Or is it, what is it? We're going to have to continue to get better at the digitation, right? And the people aspect, nearshoring and offshoring is kind of a step between automation, right? So these technologies that everyone's invested in, they haven't all really proven themselves out yet because they haven't eliminated and allowed people to work on things. So, I mean, I think you're going to still have over the next 10 years, 15 years, a lot of, jockeying for big brokers and, technologies taking more and more market share in a highly fragmented market. But we have to continue on the pay. This fraud that's happened, it's got to scare us, but it can't make us run to the hills. We have to continue getting better and better on the technology side. And this market shift, this slap we had with fraud, I know it's going to hesitate people a little bit, but we have to keep moving forward as an industry. And we got to keep coming up with products and services that that get rid of fraud.
Real quick, Kevin, I know we have a minute left. I'm going to do 2 questions from our audience.
I can run over a little if you need.
I have a demo to do for Shipper
demos.
CRM in a minute.
Yeah.
So
Good. All right,
Yeah.
good. I don't want to talk either.
we can do demo live. We can just bring them on here. But okay.
For the CRM, is that what it's for?
Yeah, for Shipper CRM.
Yeah, Shipper CRM. Yeah.
Cool. I want to learn about that.
Sure. All right, Paul, last questions.
Yeah. We'll hit you up about that, Kevin, afterwards. But in terms of a question, we've got 2 questions. One from Marco. What do you think the expedite market will look like in the second half of 2024?
Beautiful. It'll look beautiful. At our insurance brokerage, we're losing 6% of our book a month. We're outselling that, so we're treading water basically. But how long can the market lose 1% of its truckers? I don't know. So I would say the last 2 weeks, you've seen shippers actually have to hear, oh, that rate's going to be raised. So we're in a good spot on that for 2024 back half. Hockey stick.
Okay. Awesome. And then Pablo has a question. Pablo Palafox, who's working on some AI automation stuff. I think it's happyrobot.ai. So the same way that Kevin mentioned how he saw that transition from cradle to grave to split model, how do the next 5 years of freight look like, and can AI have any influence on how freight will look like?
Yes. I mean, we're using AI to kind of give us recommendations on carriers, rates to the people on the floor, but check calls, just a lot of things AI can help with, verification of rates, matching that back office aspect. So bring it. I don't know a lot about it, but I'll be the best user of it if you create great.
Awesome.
Awesome.
All right, guys, we're up on time.
Kevin, thank you so much. Oh.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Kevin. Appreciate it.
Building, man, it's really cool, and we need more stuff like this in the industry. Keep us laughing.
Awesome.
Thanks, Kevin.
See you, dude.
Appreciate it.
Everybody,
Bye.
take care.
Bye.